Wow. Very good evening and welcome to Bold Moves Radio. The program is, those special programs. We're doing a book review this evening and we're going to have a great time. And of course, when you see me in the studio, one other thing that you must remember is that I come with special programs. Fridays, sometimes I do Footprints of Legends, Minkondi Atingwazi. And but today I want to do this special program where I'm going to do a book review. And I'm so excited because the person I'm hosting today in this book review is a is a big brother of mine, is a friend of mine. In fact, we have come a long way. We have come a real long way because we have done radio together for the longest of time. When I was still at Mungana London, has been with me there. He's been my researcher. He's been my powerhouse. And when I started Bold Moves Radio, we have been together also, and I'm so excited to have him tonight. And that is none other but a man who's an author, a man who's a researcher, a man who is a great man. He's a pastor also. You name it. He's an academic. He's a man that I love, the man I appreciate. He's a broadcaster. He's an all-rounder. You name it, he's been there. And that is none other but Dr. Mabila Mathebula. And I want you to know, friends, that he is also a co-author of a life orientation book of, is it grade 11, around there, but we'll talk in details about it. And then also today, he's got a powerful book that we're going to talk about, a book that I know it's a must for every parent because it talks about helping teens to find their vision. This book, you might have seen it on an advert. I'm telling you, a powerful book. Every one of us, we need this because sometimes we lose our children, more especially at teenage stage. And some of the questions that inspired him to write these books are questions that almost every parent is confronted with. You have your daughter raped in a tavern. You've got your son into drugs. You've got your daughter moving in with a boyfriend. You've got all these things, and as parents, man, it just kills us. But with Dr. Mabila, he thought it's the complaining is very cheap, and it's very easy, but it takes somebody to think, to research, and to come up with a product that can be able to address such ills. And that is why tonight I'm so excited to have him in the studio as we review this powerful tool. Dr. Mabila, welcome to Bold Moves Radio, and I know you're good. You look warm. You know what I mean? You look warm. How are you doing, Doc?
No, man, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I think the task that I've been given this evening is an honor rather than a duty.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Doc. And one thing that I've seen and I've learned of you is that with your morning devotions to start with, you'll come up with morning devotions and start, writing devotions, and they end up into a book. And your writings, man, and also your column on newspaper, man, I love it. I love the way you are able to put words together. It's so baffling, but it's like every inch of what you do has been properly researched. And I'm so excited to have you, Dr. Mabila, tonight. And I know my listeners and my viewers will also be enjoying this. But tonight we also have with us Menkakasane, Mankakasane, that's Princess Kakasane. She's a subject advisor or whether a subject specialist, but specifically on life orientation. So it's such a blessing, and she'll be a great help for us tonight. And also we have got Mr. J.C. Maluleke. Mr. J.C. Maluleke is a principal of a school, and I just want to welcome them. And if your videos are able to come through, I'll appreciate to see your videos. But if not, I will appreciate a little bit because I don't just want to hear your voices. I want to see your faces. Princess Kakasane, Riperi Mama. Riperi Mama. Okay. Papa Maleke, good evening.
Good evening, Pastor Strike, and how are you?
Very well, thanks. And how are you doing, Papa?
I'm well, and evening to Dr. Mabila. How are you, big brother?
Hey, how are you, my brother, man? I'm fine. And how are you?
I can't complain. I can't complain. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Mr. Malek. We really appreciate you being here. And it's such an honor to have you, of course. And I know you have got a very long relationship with Dr. Mabila, and I trust that that is going to come in handy. Princess, are you breaking through? Okay, I think she'll be able to come through. But straight away, Doc, greet our viewers and our listeners and just tell us a little bit about yourself, because you know what, I'm tempted to go back to Minkondi Atingwas. Every time I see you and this legend, I owe you a lot. And since I hosted you back then, there's a lot that you have done. And you know, I'm tempted for us to take a journey, but just greet our listeners and tell us a little bit of where have you been, you know, and what have you been doing?
Okay. Good evening to our listeners, and I'm glad I'm here. I'm doing this program live, and as I said, this is an honor rather than a duty to be here. And then, in terms of my background, I try to be very brief in terms of my background. I think Pastor Strike knows more about my background, but my background, I started off my career as a teacher. And then from there, I realized that I'd been helping young minds to grow, else my mind was not growing. That's where I joined the SAPC as a producer, as well as the program facilitator. And then from there, I was recruited by Transnet to be an internal communications manager. And then from there, I actually realized that the heartbeat of the railways was in operations. And I moved into operations management. That's where I was actually exposed to the railways. I went overseas, and then I attended a lot of conferences, and I presented a number of papers in conferences, I think on 4 continents. And I worked for the railway safety regulator, where I was a senior researcher. I also did project management, change management. And also I'm a co-author of Life Orientation Grade 11. And yeah, I've done it all. I've been, you know, to so many countries, but I actually felt called that I needed to do something at home, you know, particularly something that would actually engage the teacher, the student, as well as the parents. That's what I've actually done. I'm no longer doing railway work. I'm more of an academic or a consultant. As you have seen, Pastor Strike, I've recently maybe, you know, contributed to a chapter in Europe, in a textbook in Europe. I was invited on change management, and then it has been, you know, accepted. Now that's what I'm actually doing. But I actually feel that those are home. You know, like I've been invited to, I think each and every week I'm invited to conferences overseas. But I decided that, and instead of, you know, trotting the globe, I needed to do something at home. And then this assignment that I've actually done in terms of the book is actually saying that how do you actually contribute to my home environment? How do you actually contribute to you know, the field of knowledge in South Africa as well as in Southern Africa? That's why I'm really grounded.
You know, Doc, your love for education, your appetite for studying, for reading, for researching, it's so deep. And when you look at where you come from, being an educator and then getting into railway safety and all those places, you have made broadcasting, you have made an indelible mark. What is it? What is it? What sparks and what provokes your thirst and your hunger for knowledge? Not only knowledge, but also sharing knowledge.
Yeah, as you know that I'm involved in radio. I'm involved with this radio station. I'm involved with, you know, VMC Planet Radio, where I do a program on human. I write a column every week, and I do a lot of things. The thing is, I've realized that we are living on borrowed time, and then I respect time, and I don't take time for granted. That's why my editor knows that every Wednesday I need to submit a column for my column in the Star, because I don't take my time for granted. Whatever assignment that I have to execute, I execute it with grace, because I've got an understanding that I'm living on borrowed time. And when the time is over, I don't actually want to regret. That's why whenever I embark on a program or on a project, I make it a point that I execute it to finality because I'm living on borrowed time.
Wow. That's powerful. And of course, like you said, look, you have been doing quite a lot, contributing internationally, but you felt, let me come home, let me address issues that are really close to my heart and close to my people. And that's where this powerful book came from, helping teens to find their vision. Even before we dive into it, as we review it today, let's talk about it. What inspired it, and exactly, it's a very catchy, to start with, it's a catchy topic, because when you talk of teens, I'm a father of young men now. But children, they've got stages. And they're like, my boys now, they've got beard. And as they grow, sometimes there are challenges that makes us even lose our children in the process, or not understand them, or them not understanding us. Just tell us a little bit about this project.
Yeah, for example, I'm a social commentator. I write articles, as you know. I write motivational messages. I'm on radio, and also I hold the title of a doctor. And then these things you might actually take them for granted, but when you do all these things, people have got great expectations.
Yes.
Parents would actually come to me and say, my daughter didn't sleep at home last night, or my daughter has got a boyfriend, or she cohabits, or maybe my son was stabbed in class last week. And you have got all these plethora of social problems that parents are struggling with. And on the other side of the coin, teenagers will actually come to me and say, my parent does not actually understand me. We have got conflict. She doesn't meet me halfway. I know she's a single parent, but she's making things increasingly difficult for me. That's where I actually realized that as parents, we needed some education.
Yes.
Because there's no school, of parenting. And then now I said, well, I'm not opening a school for parenting, but I'm actually saying to parents, let us actually empower you on things that we're not actually aware of. And also empowering the youth as well. Now this book is looking at the learner, the teacher, as well as the parents. We're actually saying, let us actually partner together for the collective good of our society. Because you'll actually understand that in life orientation, what actually happens is about the teacher and the learner and the environment. But the parent is not actually taken into account.
Yes.
But in this book, the parent is actually taken into account, because there are some exercises for parents as well.
Yes.
Yeah. There are some case studies, live case studies that actually happened, that we're actually addressing them in the book.
Lovely. And then let's just check if Princess Kagasan, Princess, are you with us? Princess, are you with us, ma'am? Okay. To connect, but I trust that all shall be well with time. And then so many people have commented about this book, the book, on the cover or on the back of the cover. One of them is Mr. Lowan, your former principal, who said this book is a torchbearer for the society we want to be. Why do you think this book is a torchbearer?
Yeah, well, it's a torchbearer because it's there to give you light, on things that you are not actually aware of, or on the mistakes that as a parent you committed and you are not actually aware. And then also as a learner, the things that you're actually doing, or maybe the things that are actually happening to you. Let me talk about girls, hormonal changes. You are going through your stage, and your mother is going through menopause. Both of you are going through stages, and then you are actually bound to collide. And then the book is a torchbearer because it's illuminating. It's actually telling you exactly where you should actually go. It's actually telling you where your mistakes are. And then, like there's a scripture in the Bible. I think Pastor Strike, you know it better. I think it's David. He talks about the lamp on my, like on my feet.
On my feet.
Yeah, that's what the book is actually trying to do. Yeah.
Sure. That's beautiful. And Mr. Maleke, our principal, what would you love to say? Doc is one other thing that I think that's the relationship that you have. He went all out to come and adopt your school. And what can you say, and what question, what contribution would you love to say? Because like I said, this man, he does quite a lot of things. You end up asking yourself, where is he getting all this time? But like he said, he wants to empty himself. He does not want to make sure, he does not want time to just elapse and him not having dished out all that is in him. What can you say, Mr. Maleke?
Good evening, Pastor, and to the viewers and listeners. Yeah, I can really attest to the spirit that is in Dr. Mabila when he came to our school in support of the girl child and the grade 12s 2 years back. He's so thorough and he's very, very particular in terms of details. He came to the institution, Lekota Senior Secondary, a day before the actual event, just to see on how he's going to set up everything. And then the presentation was also typed and we shared it even on WhatsApp. Everybody has got that speech that was motivating the grade 12s of 2021 in that regard. So coming back to my question, Doc, I'm more fascinated by the challenges that we're facing as managers of schools to say, how do we navigate the challenges of discipline across generations? Because as I stand in front of my learners at school, I'm a 55 plus principal who grew up in a particular environment, and most of my learners, they are heading their families, and many of their parents, they are still young in that regard. So what used to be acceptable or not acceptable in the past is now a norm, just like the issue of teenage pregnancy. If you go to the social media, you'll find that and this program, I love of Date My Family, say, no, if you ask a guy to say, no, I don't have a child, then people frown at you because that is the new normal. So now, coming back to the institutions, how can you assist us in terms of managing discipline across the generational gaps that we have in our institutions?
Yeah, I was saying, he's got time, and he said, no, I don't have time, but I have discipline. And one of the excuses that I don't have time. Tell us a little bit about how not having time, but I'm achieving much. Hey, Doc.
Yeah, when it comes to time, a lot of people are actually asking me, where do you get time for your family, time to write, time for radio, time to preach, and the like. And I say that I don't actually have time, but I've got discipline for each and everything that I have to do. If I have to preach, I have time for preaching. I need to prepare. If I have to write, I've got time for writing, and I discipline myself. That I have to. If I have to wake up at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock and execute a task, I have to do it. That's what I actually do.
And how did you develop that discipline? Because I'm telling you, it's easily said than done, and I think that's where a lot of great people, or a lot of people full of potential, do not realize their potential because of lack of discipline. How do you start working out a discipline?
Yeah, I think I read a book, and then the book that I read, there was a man who was about to die. And then shortly before he died, he was interviewed, and the question was, what would you do if you could actually live your life all over again? Then he said, you'll take more risks. You'll work more. And then he'll commit more to his projects. And I said to myself that I don't have to die to come to that realization. Whilst alive, I have to do the right thing. As I said, we are living on borrowed time.
Yes.
And then whatever I start, I must actually finish with discipline.
Wow. So somebody's lesson We don't have to go through the very same challenge. I just hear what somebody says. If I'll have to relive my life, this is what I could do. And then you pick that up. That's powerful. Your former English teacher, Dr. Edna Ruth, who wrote the foreword, and he lauded you as a student and a writer. How do you manage to keep such contacts and such relationships? Because we talk of, when you talk of your former principal, your former teacher, and continue in your chain of life. What's the secret? Some people, we easily break bridges and bend them.
Yeah. I think Edna Roth taught me more than 40 years ago. She taught me English as well as guidance. And then we've actually kept contact, since then. And I feel that she's still my mentor, because your teacher will always be your teacher. It's not only Edna Roth, but also L.K. Maluleke. He was my principal. I'm still in touch with him. Mr. Lowane, I'm still in touch with him. He was actually my teacher. Because I believe that you need mentors in life. Yes. And then you need people who knew you when you were actually young. And those people, even now, they can guide you. Like with Edna Roth, the life orientation book that I wrote, I maybe co-authored. We co-authored together. She's the one who wrote me in. My columns, every week I sent a column for her to comment. This book, before I wrote the book, I gave her the manuscript to comment and guide me. Now I actually feel that you have got people who have to give you wings. And people such as L.K. Maluleke, Loan, and Edna Roth are the people who are giving me wings. And if tonight I fly, those are the people who have actually given me the wings. They are the wings, the wing givers. And then now, if people perceive me as flying like an eagle, those are the people. Those people actually responsible for giving me the wings.
Wow, that's powerful. Let me see if we are breaking through with Princess Kakasan. Princess, okay, we lost it again. Okay, let me see. She's here. Princess, are you with us? Okay. Look, you wrote that failure to assist teenagers find their vision may lead to ABCDs of negativity. What do you mean by this?
Yeah. What I actually meant is, Pastor Strike, you actually understand when you go to organization, maybe company, there is a vision, there is a mission statement, maybe there are values that actually underpin the vision and the mission. But what I've actually realized is there are few households or families that do have vision or a mission. And then people are just groping in the dark. And also when you look at our teenagers, they are also groping in the dark because no one is actually giving them a vision. And then that's what I'm actually saying, that if we don't actually attend to them, we don't give them the vision, then they might actually end up losing sight of their goals. ABC of what I asked, ABC is anger and aggression, stands for A, and then B, blame and betrayal.
Okay.
C, criticism and challenge, and then D, despair and depression. If we don't actually intervene, these are the things that are going to happen. Now I'm saying, as society, we need to give them the wings. By giving them the wings, we'll be giving them the vision.
That's powerful. In fact, that's powerful. I think that is why you said this book brings parents also on board, because many a time as parents we sit back and expect, but our expectations are baseless because we did not really help. Yes, you might be feeding, you might be clothing them, but we are not really understanding, and we are not really getting and maybe also another thing that keeps us so busy, we even say, like just now, I met a mom who said, I'm going to work for my children, and And you know, I'm going for duty now, and no, there are those things that if we are not available and if we're not understanding, we are not helping them find the vision. And the Bible says, where there's no vision, you know, people lose restraint. There's no self-control without a vision. So a vision has got a way of giving a restraint and guide and help. And what can you say to parents while we are on that?
Yeah, I think parents have got a role to bring their children into proper adulthood, and then by actually engaging their children and find out exactly how their children are feeling about things. At the moment, I'm addressing something on VMC Planet Radio about teenage depression. At times, our children are depressed and they don't disclose it, and they end up committing suicide,
which is so painful.
Yeah. And then now, as parents, we must actually learn to engage with our children and talk to them and find out exactly how they're feeling about things, and start engaging them on those things. And it doesn't actually matter how they feel about things. But what's important, because a lot of parents would actually say to me, my child committed suicide, but I didn't know what my child was actually going through. But once you try to have that open relationship with your child, you actually know exactly how your child feels. Like, for example, another example is our society have got a lot of single parent families.
Yes.
For example, I meet a woman who's a single parent, and then I get into a life, and then maybe a daughter or a son might actually feel threatened about me being in that relationship. That I don't feel comfortable with this man, and that's not wrong. That's how she feels about the whole situation.
Yes.
But if you could actually open up and then with your daughter or your son and say, Mom, I understand you have got a new person in your life, but I don't feel comfortable about this situation.
Yes.
Can we actually talk about this thing?
Yes.
But what do we do? We say, we start blaming them. Hey, I understand. Hey, now I've got my own life. Yes, you have got your own life. But you need to understand exactly what this person is actually feeling, and then deal with those issues.
So we suppress. We don't want them to express their feelings. And maybe that's one barrier that makes us not really not want to engage, because some of the things we know, they might say things that we feel uncomfortable. But I think that makes them to vent or to speak up whatever frustration is in them, and to get to understand them. Sure, that's very deep.
And also, Pastor Strike, the way we're socialized, we were actually socialized in an era whereby we also suppressed our feelings.
Yes.
Even when our parents were wrong and we were not actually allowed, to express our feelings.
Yes.
And then now we actually expect our children to
do the same.
And when they challenge us, we become angry.
Oh yes.
And say, this generation is like this generation is like that.
Yeah.
And what's important is to understand. It's not to criticize.
It's to understand.
It's to understand exactly what they are going through and then deal with those challenges.
So we say this generation is like this, and we lose that generation because we don't understand the generation instead of really. That's why parenting is no joke, eh? But let's look at, you wrote about iceberg, where there is visible and invisible behavior. Will you please just expatiate or elaborate on that?
Yeah. The iceberg thing is or a metaphor.
Yes.
There are things that you are going to see, that are visible. Maybe rebellion. The daughter is rebellious, selfish, stubborn. Those behaviors, you can see them.
Yes.
But there's something underneath that you don't see. Firstly, you might actually find that they're behaving like this because they're depressed. And only find out that depression has been cumulative. You are sitting on a time bomb which can actually explode at any time. Maybe there's, she's got attention deficit disorder, or personality disorder, obsession, compulsive, disorder, and then logic sequence problems. Only to find out there are things that are behind. that we don't actually see.
Mm.
And then we actually focus on the tip of the iceberg, things that you can see. You can see rebellion, you can see anxiety, you can see all these things, you can see stubbornness. But what is underneath?
Sure.
And what we are saying to your parents is that when you see these things, you must actually go underneath.
There is something.
There is something.
In fact, there is the real and the cause of what you see outside.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when you look at safety management, you look at an accident. An accident has just happened. That's what you see. But what are the root causes? What were the things? Maybe the driver had dementia, because we've got drivers who have got dementia, but they are on the road. Or maybe this person was depressed. Or maybe this person has just been telephoned that someone has actually passed on. Like, for example, as I came to the studio, my brother called me and he says one of my cousin has actually passed on. Imagine if I were driving. You understand? Now you need to go underneath and say, but what are the root causes? What are the things that are in the water?
This powerful. Yeah, so this book is a life manual, I must be honest, and it brings life and life to relationships so that we're able to support each other. I'm able to support my children and they're able to support me, because if that channel of communication is so clear and is so alive, it also ministers back to you, because you are able to express yourself. But we strangle it because we say no, bana maskulama.
Yeah, and also we deal with constraints. Like there's a case study there. Now I address the question of pregnancy there, and then you'd actually find that there are some clinics, like where people are allowed to terminate pregnancy. It depends where you come from, pro-life or pro-choice. But these kids, when they go to family planning, more often than not, to like maybe to prevent themselves from falling pregnant. You know what? The nurses are hostile. They are being told that what do you do when? What do you want here? You are supposed to be at school. And then the poor child, who wanted to to be protected from being pregnant is not being assisted in terms of contraceptive because the situation is hostile.
Oh, yes.
Now you end up being pregnant, not because you wanted to. You end up being pregnant because of the situation. And then now we read, in papers, they say 22,000 kids fell pregnant, but what about our systems? Because I believe that our systems also are
contributors
to the pregnancy.
Yes.
So we need to address the systems as well.
Sure. Yeah, this is deep. Mr. Maleke, as a principal of a school, how do you identify with what Dr. Mabila is talking about, more especially when we look at our teenagers, and the tip of the iceberg, which tells us of the underlying factors, which might be very dangerous, but sometimes we just see a rebellious child and all that. What's your experience and what is your take as somebody who's working with children almost on a daily basis?
Yeah, Pastor, it's very true. Most of the time we come as fire extinguishers, not taking deep into the root cause of the problem. But I have just adopted one style that I said, for every troublesome kids at school, I've adopted that particular child. And during break, we sit under the tree and we fellowship together. When they have their own lunch boxes, I also take my lunch box, and then we just come and say, no, the topic that we are discussing is how do we become a responsible man in the future. So in that way, I'm able to search, ask probing questions to say what might be the problem. And most of the time, I find the problem to be with us as parents at home. So maybe I may suggest that to say, because of lack of time in our families, how about if we have common time of fellowshipping where we switch off our gadgets and then we just communicate with our kids to say, how was your day? Tell me about your day. And then we discuss what transpire throughout the day. Maybe in that way, we will be able to dig deeper into what might be challenging these kids during their spare time when they're at school or when they're playing.
That's true. But where do we start, Principal and Doc? Where do we start? Because now our children are sold out to gadgets, and to tell them to switch off their gadgets, it's war. I know when we go out on a restaurant, my wife will insist and say, "You're not going to be on your phone, and if you might have to pay for the meals." But you can see.
Are you still there, Pastor Strike? Dr. Mabila, are you still there?
And my advice is, let us actually move, from the lounge and then take time to go to the dining room. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful. In fact, that's one of the things that we decided to do, even as a family. Having a devotion, a week together in a week. Where also the children, they share something. They share their understanding of the scriptures. They share their understanding. I think it's something that we really have to cultivate, because, and for those parents, I would love to say, for those parents that are still raising children, if it could start down there, because one thing that I've seen, Doc and Mr. Malik, which I think it's something to correct. When a child cries, be it at church or where, we give them the phone. And these kids at age 3, 4, they know how to operate the phone. And the phone or the iPad is given to the child to keep the child busy. But that thing, like we talk of social media, that is a world in itself. So we say, you're disturbing me in my world. Let me give you this world. And sometimes, by the time we want them back, it's taken them over, and it becomes a challenge. I think it's very much important for us to really have these quality times with our children. And Doc, let's talk about what is the difference between conservative parent and progressive parent.
Yeah, well, in the book, I'm addressing that question about, you know, parents who are conservative and parents who are actually, you know, progressive. And then I give, you know, examples, you know, about, you know, maybe sort of an indication so that you actually understand exactly, you know, where you fall. For example, let us talk about conservative, you know, parents. They are very restrictive, you know, or holding back. And then a progressive parent will be enabling, you know. The other one is controlling. You know, they've got, you know, a pathological, you know, they are pathological obsessed with order. You know, there's this pathological obsession. And the other one is free. You can talk anything, you know, the way you feel. And then the other one, playing things safe. And then the other one is strategic risk taking. The other one is molding. The other one is releasing.
Okay.
And then the other one encourages compliance. And the other one encourages ingenuity. And then regimenting, you know, like a lot of rules.
Okay.
You know, and the other one challenging. You know, the other one is what was it? You know, autocratic.
Autocratic.
And the other one is, you know, participative. You know, those are differences. Now you choose as to whether you want to be progressive as a parent or you want to be conservative. You know, and then, but being conservative won't actually take you anywhere. You know, using the box approach unnecessarily so won't actually bring the desired result. Rather, you'd actually end up being frustrated.
Yeah, because, you know, it's like what you put out, it comes back to you, and sometimes it comes back so massively so that you even forget that I've contributed to this. You know, and you say, I don't know what became of my child. I don't know what's anything. I don't know, you know. It's my parenting, you know. In fact, the first witch is not out there. It's not the one flying with a broom, but it's the one that is parenting, you know, and unaware. But having said that, what are the roles of parents in leading teenagers into proper adulthood? What are our roles, you know, proper adulthood? I think that is another thing, because these children that we are bringing up, we bring them to be adults. And some of the adults that we are today, with the product of what the parents did or did not do, you know, is commission or omission. How do we then help our children?
Yeah, maybe before I could actually answer that question, you'd actually find that, okay, imagine, let us take this scenario. This woman is 16 years old, she falls pregnant, and she becomes a mother. And then she has to bring up a child. And then what do you expect of such a person?
Yeah.
You know, there is a lot of, you know, immaturity in the process, you know, because this person is a child, and then she conceived and she had a child. And then now she has to execute parenting. And then now you are going to have a problem, you know, in terms of parenting, because this person became a parent when she was not supposed to be a parent. Now we end up, you know, having a vicious circle.
Okay.
You know, and which is actually a social problem. But the bottom line is you are a parent.
Yes. At the bottom line, you are a parent.
You are a parent.
How it came about it's immaterial. Now you are a parent.
Yeah, you are a parent. You know, whether you are 16, 12 years old or what, you are a parent.
You are a parent, yes.
Yeah. Firstly, you know, communicate. You know, two-way communication, because communication is a glue that actually holds all principles together.
Yes.
And then, you know, partner in strategy. In other words, parents should know the vision of their children.
Okay.
You know, their aspirations. You know, what is it that you want? Because more often than not, because we don't spend time with them, we don't know exactly what their visions are. We don't know what their aspirations are. And normally, what we do is we want, if maybe at school I was not good at maths, I want my child to do pure maths because I was a failure. And then now you must actually understand the vision of their children. And then also, you need to enable them to make decisions.
Okay.
And also make mistakes.
Okay.
Because mistakes are part and parcel of the learning curve. We learn through actually mistake. And also you need to mentor them.
Okay.
They need to be mentored because you have been on this earth for quite some time, and then you have got more wisdom. Now you need to mentor them. And also they must actually see you as a mentor. They must actually see wisdom that from Pastor Strike, my father, there is a lot of wisdom. But if they don't actually see that wisdom, they won't actually allow you to mentor them.
Yes, they won't allow you.
And you need to guide them. You must actually guide them and have principles to guide them. And then you must actually help them to plan, for their future. And then point to the pitfalls of life. Like for example, when it comes to relationships, you need to say to them, it's good to be in a relationship, but you must actually understand that you might actually be hurt in the relationship in the process. And then it's going to be our problem. Those lights, those actually red lights flashing, you need to warn them. You need to develop them, you need to manage conflict, you need to motivate them. They need to be motivated. You need to take it as your responsibility that I'm on a
Yeah, from my side, you were breaking up, Doc and Pastor Strike from the studio. But my contribution, when Doc was speaking, he reminded me of one definition of education to say it is the accompaniment of a child to a responsible adulthood. So in Doc's presentation, it demands that we as parents should always be there. That's number one. Number two, we should always communicate with our children, because how do you accompany and how do you show and how do you correct when parents are not there? Some of us were there in our families, but in the lives of our kids and in the vision of their kids, of our kids, we are not there. We don't even know what the children need or do not need, what they lack or what they don't lack, what their challenges are, and how to help them in terms of addressing those challenges. I hope I'm becoming clearer on your side, because on my side you were breaking up. I did not get the gist of the question. Pastor Strike and Doc.
You actually find that you're obsessed with my divorce with my husband, only to find that like we spoke about the iceberg, underneath your son is divorcing you. Your daughter is divorcing you. Your daughter is separating from you. You know, and you thought you were actually focusing on your own problem. Now we need to be holistic when we actually deal with this problem.
Yes.
Because you might actually find that you are divorced with your husband or your wife, only to find that at the end of your divorce, your children have also divorced
you.
Your children have also separated from you.
Yes.
Now you end up being alienated from society and become disillusioned.
Yeah, that's big. Okay, let's talk about what are the challenges in a girl's world and what are the 3 A's for boys.
Yeah, when I was actually doing my research, I actually found that girls have got more challenges than boys.
Okay.
And they've got hormonal challenges. They've got all these things, the challenges. And then what the girls' challenges? Firstly, eating disorder.
Okay.
That's another thing. Because they want to look fine, they want to trim their body and the like, and they actually end up not eating enough. Or maybe they're depressed. They might actually end up binging or eating a lot and put on a lot of weight. And it is said that when a woman, gains, they say when a man loses his job, he loses his confidence. But when a woman gains weight, she loses her confidence. Now you'd actually find that she has actually lost confidence because she has actually put on weight. Also drugs and alcohol. And these things are the things that we actually see, but they're underlying factors.
Yeah, underlying factors.
Such as depression. Yeah, cell phone and internet pornography. Like another problem is the question of pornography. Because these kids are exposed to pornography.
Yes.
They know everything. They can actually go there and see what is actually happening in a pornographic world. And some of them, they've got these desires, but there's no one to fulfill those desires. They end up being frustrated and the like. And as a parent, you come there authoritatively, you talk about sex before marriage and the like. And then when they go into their bedroom, they fantasize about these things. Now they are in their own world. Now, as a parent, we have got the responsibility to take them from that artificial world and bring them to the promised land. And that promised land is the land that, as parents, we need to actually to define and say, but this is the promised land for my children. This is where we are going to. Yeah. And then another thing is depression, as we have actually said. Cutting and self-injury, they cut themselves. Like they, you have got this, internal turmoil to understand that you actually cut yourself, you destroy yourself. These are the challenges that actually, girls are facing.
And Doc, having said that, I realize that increasingly, our girls will be having mental illness challenges, mental health challenges. Honestly speaking, I've seen it increase. You find it at church, you find it at school, and like you say, there will be behaviors that if you are not observant, if you are not reaching out, they tell you of underlying factors, and sometimes in the process, that's why you've got suicide, that's why you've got the self-injuries, you see, they've cut themselves, and depression, so much, and I've seen it happen in recent years, especially to young girls, What would you love to say even before we get to the 3 A's of the boys?
Yeah. Well, I think
more special to parents, because I think it's very painful for a parent to realize that my daughter is depressed. What depresses you? Because they didn't even say it coming. They didn't, I think we need to be able to diagnose. We need to be able to avoid things. And what can we do as parents? Because sometimes you're left helpless, and when you realize it's bad, now you blame yourself.
Yeah, because also these challenges, you take them into adulthood. You are a girl and you're an adult. And then we say to you, go to school. I've gone to school. We say to you, go to university. You go to university. We say to you, sex before marriage is forbidden. You have done everything.
Yes.
You have got a career. You're holding on to a career. You have got a degree and the like. But you look at the dating market.
And now?
Yeah. Now you look at the dating market. You actually find that, you know what? There's no man, for me. I've got everything. I've got a house. I've got everything. But when I look, into the dating market, even in the United States, we've got a problem with, Black American women. They've gone to school and the like, and they come back only to find that their fellow Americans are not, educated and the like. And then they look at the dating market and they become so depressed. And say, because I've done everything. I've prayed. I've fasted. I went to school. I've achieved. I'm at work. This is what I'm doing. But look at what is happening in the dating market. And until as society we bring the boy child into this equation, and make him more responsible and make him more loving. Like there are some women, they haven't actually, no one has said to them, I love you. No one has said to them, you are intelligent. No one has said to them, you are beautiful. And those words, affirmation, if you don't actually receive them, what would actually happen of you? And our boys have never been taught to appreciate the opposite sex. Rather, they see the opposite sex as a threat. You look at our universities, the people who are graduating, the majority of people who are graduating are women.
Are women, true.
And then boys are not graduating. Either they're in jail, they're on drugs, they're nyaupe, or they've been killed in these actually circumcision schools. Now we are actually creating this imbalance in our society, and then we have to do something about the situation.
Very true. That one is very. In fact, it reminds me of one old man who had a boy child project and calling it "Save the Male Seed." I think that is very critical. And because if we are not developing, if we are not supporting, if we are not helping a boy child, we are setting up a girl child. We're really setting them up, because it's like I always say, work hard to improve your neighbor. If you're improving your own family, improve even your neighbor's family. Why? Because your children will have to go and marry the neighbor. So if you, and more especially even as the church, the church, we must continue being hopeful and being outreaching, because yes, we may teach our children to be faithful and to have visions, to focus, but we have to bring all these children that are out there so that we also teach them, so that we also help them. That is why sometimes gender-based violence also rises, because by chance, because boys, whether they've been to school or not, they propose, and somebody who's been waiting and hoping to find love, they think, but he talks good, he looks good. And the next thing, they get married. And the lady must travel the world. She's an academic. She's presenting papers all over. And the flight or ticket and everything is not for couples. It's for, and they're looking for this academic person, this researcher. And now it becomes a problem. Yeah, I trust style. Somehow overseas we are jawline and all that. And now it's trouble. So I think we really need to do something about the boy child. But tell me about the 3 A's of a boy.
Maybe before I could do that. As a young teacher, I worked under Professor Kambule, and then at Pace College, and then Kambule said to us as young teachers, he said, "Teachers, I can see you are progressive, you are okay," and he says, "But the type of girls that you are actually teaching, these are good women. They could be good women in future." And he said to us, "You know what? Wait for these girls to finish their matric and the like, and then from there you can actually propose love to them and marry them, because I see these girls, they are good girls. They'll be good women." But we didn't actually see that, as young teachers, we didn't see it. And then he warned and he says, "You know what? If you don't marry these girls, the street boys will marry them and they'll kill them.
Yes, true.
And I said to myself, you know what? When I see gender-based violence, I said,
it's exactly what Prof. Kambule said.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yes. Yeah, that's painful, eh?
Yeah.
That's painful. Yeah. Let's talk about the 3 A's.
Yeah,
for boys.
I think you have also alluded to that the boy child has been relegated to the background, and then through socialization and the like, we hardly tell our boys how much we love them. Love maybe it's reserved for the girls, but we hardly tell them that we love them. That's why when I talk to my kids, I must make it a point, even when they call me, I said, I love you. Or when I send them a text message, I say, I love you, just to reinforce that. And when I talk to my fellow friends, I call them, everybody, I call them my friend. If it's Pastor Strike, I said, thank you, my friend. Because that thing, it's a reinforcement.
It's a reinforcement.
Of saying that, it means this person appreciates.
Yes.
So each and every person that I meet, a male person, is my friend.
Yes.
And I call you my friend, as a form of reinforcement.
Yes.
And these words, love and friend, they are a rare commodity in our planet.
Yes.
They are not there. You said, when you introduced me, you said, I'm your friend. And I appreciate that. Because in our planet, it's rare to be called a friend.
Yes.
In our planet, to hear the word love, that I love you, it's rare.
It's rare. And it's a healing word. It's an affirming word. It's an uplifting word.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why even when they propose love, they only say I love you, on that day. From there, they don't actually say to their men, women that, I love you. They only say I love you when they fight. And I can't know what's about your rat. What's about your rat? Yeah, why was that so?
And the tone is not.
Yeah, you are saying
not going along with
you are saying the right words, but in a wrong tune.
In a wrong tune. Yeah.
Now for boys, firstly, what we need is attention.
Oh, yes.
They need attention. We need to give them attention. And as parents, we have to give them attention. That's the first thing. Another thing, affection. You need to have a pet name for him. If maybe it's Patrick, it's a pet. If it's maybe if Nchenge, just say Nchenge.
Wow.
They need this, this affection, as well as appreciation. Whatever they are doing, we need to actually appreciate them.
Oh, yes.
Now, these are the 3 A's. Attention, affection, and appreciation.
That's powerful, Doc.
But these have been withdrawn.
They've been withdrawn
from our planet.
Yes. And this medicine, this is the oil.
Yeah.
That keeps the lamp burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, Doc. I hear you.
And if you look at the other, they say men are from Mars, women are from Venus. If you look at the other planet, when they've got issues, they talk, they ventilate. These are my issues and the like. They call each other and the like. But in our planet, we go into the cave. We don't say anything.
We take the tortoise posture, boom, back into the shell.
Yeah. and at times we die in the cave.
Yes.
Because we don't actually have an opportunity to reimagine and be out of the cave. Now, these are social problems and they warrant our attention as society. And not me as an author, but each and every person, be it a pastor and the like. And today, I think I've made a clarion call to parents and to South Africa of saying that let us do something about our situation.
True. Yeah, that's true. And let's love our children. Let's love the next generation enough to invest on them. Let's love the future. Desmond, one of my technical guys here, he says, thanks, Dr. Mabila, for all your research. As someone who has girls, it's important to know girls' challenges. And he's a father of 2 girls. And, it's a dark world. You navigate, and look, you're a boy and you're a man and you're raising girls. And without a little bit of light, can you imagine? And the same applies, even with boys, because children are children. And I realized that one thing that I've always believed is that my children, even sometimes when we sit and we engage and they baffle me, I say, yeah, I expected this. They are smarter than I am. But it's, if we have a good relationship, smart as they are, they will accord me the respect, and I'll be able to contribute. And if they respect you, then they can learn from you. They can hear what you say. They can take your advice. But if they lose respect, they cannot take any advice. Let's talk, Doc. I want us, I wanted us just to be here for an hour, but I'm telling you, if this show is benefiting somebody, I am that somebody. I must be honest. It's life, and that's why I say we will have to have a live parent seminar where we deal with these issues. Let us just look at the most, not the most. You mentioned about 5 love languages. And what are those? Because, from what you've just said on how the affirming words and the like, I want to know about these 5 love languages that you're talking about. What is it?
Yeah. Sorry. Firstly, you must actually understand your child's love language. Firstly, you said to me that you wanted us to be here for an hour, and then we are now beyond an hour. Albert Einstein, when he was actually explaining the theory of relativity, he says, if you are in a company of a beautiful woman for an hour and you sit on a stove for a minute, now he says, if you are in a company of a beautiful woman for an hour, it feels like a minute. But if you sit on a hot stove for a minute, it feels like an hour.
Yes.
He was explaining the theory of relativity.
Yes.
And then now you must actually understand the love language. Your child has got a love language, and you need to understand those love languages. Okay, firstly, some children words of affirmation. They want you to affirm them.
Oh yes.
Like for example, I love you. You are doing well. I'm proud of you, and the like. To them, that's a love language.
Yes.
And most of the parents, we don't actually understand the love language. And some, physical touch, just to hug her. How are you, and the like. That's a love language. Physical touch. It's a love language. Others, quality time.
Yes.
Dad, let's go, together to a movie. Let's spend time together outside, and do maybe at the restaurant and the like. Quality time. That's a love language. And these children, they are crying for these things. And these things are not there. And as our parents, we don't even understand the love language. Another thing, acts of service, doing something together, Pastor Strike. Maybe doing something, maybe video taping or what, or maybe, like doing something like the project that we're actually doing outside of paving, doing with your son. Acts of service, they want to serve with you. And another love language, gifts. Maybe your child actually prefers a gift. That's the love language. When you come back from work and say, this is what I bought you, this is what I bought you, this is what I bought you, love language. Now, you need to determine, what is my child's love language? The same applies to your partner. You must actually understand what is a love language.
Yes.
I saw this also Kale, woman, and I said to myself that our parents were actually deprived of love, because akaya kusamakutele vanhu always.
Yes.
Kufanele kuvakacha luya n'wana hani n'wana yini n'wana vatirha ku sweka vo mhani vo papa va vuya late, and I said our mothers didn't actually have an opportunity because they were always crowded. I wish I could actually wake my father and my mother up and say to them, be there for a year together so that you can actually experience love. So you need to understand the love language of your partner as well as the love language of your child.
Wow, this is beautiful. Doc, let's talk about the 5 emotional stages of teen pregnancy, because these are very important issues, and when we look at it at face value, we don't really understand what is happening. But your research, your interaction with people helped for you to bring out this powerful thing. Let's talk about the 5 emotional stages of teen pregnancy.
As I said to you, that I think some of the pregnancies are caused by the system. You know, as I said initially, that we need to address these things. You know, the maybe theories of constraints, the constraints. But to answer your question, you know, the 5 stages. Firstly, it's a question of denial.
Okay.
Once you're actually pregnant, you say, but is it true? Am I pregnant? You know, depending on the environment where you are based. Normally, when when a girl is actually pregnant, the first person, Papa, what will my father say?
Yes.
You know that thing,
Yes.
because of the conservative nature. You know, what will my father say?
Yes.
I still remember I worked with a teacher, and his daughter was pregnant, and then he never spoke with her for the whole year. And then in the process, his wife died.
Sure.
And that child grew up. Then he says, Menier, this child is the one who's cooking for me now.
You know?
So there's a question of denial, depending on what is happening at home. You know, because at times as fathers, even if maybe a child is pregnant, we try to be very conservative. We try to be very strict. We try to be not understanding, you know, and try to, you know, and a child will actually run away from home because there is a monster. And I'm saying to fathers, let us not be monsters. Let us be human beings.
Yes.
You know, Chris Barnard says, before he died, he says, when he died, and he says, people says, but, you know, Chris Barnard, you have achieved a lot, man. And how would people remember you? And he said, I don't want to be remembered as a professor, but I want to be remembered as a human being. And later on, as Bontat, let us be remembered as human beings, not as monsters.
Yes. Sure.
There's a question of fear. You know, there's fear. You know, you don't know what pregnancy means. You know, there's a question of fear. You don't have resources. You don't know what is happening. And then maybe the boyfriend has actually abandoned him. You have got fear of the unknown. And also anger. Why did I do it? You know, it's an emotion. You become so angry about the whole thing. And then eventually depressed. You are going to be depressed. You know, you are going to go through the process of actually depression.
Yes.
You know? And then no one talks to you, you know, about it. You bear your own cross, particularly when the father of the child does not actually take responsibility. You say, poor me. You know, I hate the dawning of the day where I actually met that person. Now you become so depressed.
You know, when you say that, Doc, it reminds me of a daughter who got pregnant at varsity, and she threw herself out of the 3rd floor and died when she thought of her father. And I'm saying, fathers, one thing that also maybe as fathers we should think, stop and think, is our childhood. We were young, we've made a lot of mistakes. If I expect my son or my daughter to be perfect, have I been perfect? And our children, sometimes they can even calculate. They even see, that means when dad got me or when mom got me, they were a teenager or they were this, they were this. You understand? But then we portray this picture, which is a very wrong picture that says we are perfect. And we cannot show our children our scars. And when they happen to miss it, then they take their lives. I think we must be realistic. And you know, that man who lost his daughter because she committed suicide, he said, you know, you can see him, he's a broken man, he's a shattered man. Why? Because, to be honest, you know, I contributed to this. I was not there for my daughter. My daughter thought of me and said, I better die. The same applies to our boys. I think as parents, one of the things that I always say, for example, you know, I'll correct, I'll guide, I'll help my children. But the day they make a mistake, it's not my day to shout. I don't fight. When they've made a worse mistake, I don't fight. Why? Because before I came even to know, they've been fighting themselves inside. They've been buffeting themselves. What will Dad say? I've disappointed him. I've done this. When they come, I better embrace, assure them, and help them. And I think if we'll take that approach, there's time for training, correcting, teaching. But when the children, and also, you see the affirmation, let them know Dad loves me. Let them know that. I remember when I got married, I was naive, I was young. And in the processes, my dad was going this way and blaming. And I said, Dad, leave it, I'll do it. And Dad's being Dad's, he stood back. I got married without him, without my mom. It's only my 2 little sisters who came to my wedding. After that, I said, I'm going home. One of my cousins said, your dad is very furious. He will kill you. I said, no, he's my dad. So even though I knew we crossed lines, but I still had this thing out, he's my father, he will not kill me. And I went home and he said, son, mess did happen, but you know what? I welcome my God. To date, my father calls my wife his pastor. He loves my wife and she loves him, So, and I had to pray a prayer, say, my mom and dad should not die until I'm 10 years in marriage so that I can have an anniversary specifically for them. And God granted that. But, these are the mistakes that we make, but in the process we grow. Today I'm an old man. Today I have grandchildren, but I did not walk perfectly. So sometimes it's important for us to stop and think, and back then it was not as challenging as it is now, because today we live in the global village. Today we hear, because some of these things are contagious, when a young person is going through mental health issues, on social media, they say so-and-so had mental health issues, they committed suicide. So that is also an advice that if it's not working, kill yourself. Yeah, Doc, I'm being grilled here, and I love this. I must be honest, I love this.
Yeah, maybe if I could chime in, I think what you have actually said is, someone, last week I wrote in my column about Father's Day, and I said a messenger of God like Jesus Christ, when he comes with 2 messages, a spiritual message and a social message. And the social message that when he gave the parable of the prodigal son, by then parents had problems with their sons or daughters. And I said to myself, but if Jesus Christ were to come today, you'd actually give us a different parable. That would be a parable of a prodigal parent, who would actually come to his senses. And I'm saying to that prodigal parent at the moment, that please come to your senses.
Yes.
And say, I'll arise and go to my son and say to him, I've sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your father. And then it will be up to that son or the daughter to accept you. If you were to come today, you'd actually, the other message will be about the prodigal father or the prodigal mother. That will be the message that Jesus would actually bring.
Yes, the prodigal father, the prodigal. True. And believe you me, when we become vulnerable before our children, sometimes we're healing them, because where we are wrong, we must admit. I remember one day, I lost it with my firstborn, and I think it was during COVID. We differed on something because it was about health and the like, and I spoke very harshly. But I could not sleep with it. I called him and said, son, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, son. I lost it. He said, no, Dad, I understand. And then we reconciled, because that's one other thing. Just because I'm a parent does not mean I cannot err. Sometimes you get emotional, you say things that you're not supposed to say. I feel it's important for me to say, son, I lost it. I'm sorry. And, because of that, the relationship, because he realizes, oh, my dad In fact, they understand my dad is emotional like I am, and that's why he ended up saying, "But dad, I was also, I'm sorry, I was also out of the line, but I had to take a step, and apologize." So I think that is very, very much important. But let's, Doc, because me and you, we can talk the whole night here. There's a case study in chapter 8 about the true story of motherhood. Can you tell us the story in a nutshell?
No, the story is about a girl. Her name is Wanga. She was conceived out of wedlock, and then she was raised by a single parent, as well as a step parent who was never involved. Then she met a man, and then she fell pregnant, and then the man dropped out of her life. She became a single parent, but she decided to change the narrative. Then she became a professional who helped people, to solve social problems. She ended up being a single parent, but she didn't actually see herself as a victim, but she saw herself as a solution to the problem. Then when she conceived, she was turned from pillar to post by staff nurses or sisters, who actually said she must actually go to school because she had no business to be at the family planning center. Now, these are the issues that we are actually addressing. As I said, that some of the problems, pregnancies are systematic. The issues that are there, the constraints that are there. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's and one other thing. Maybe let's talk as pastors. Because also as pastors, I think while we advocate purity according to the word of God, but at the very same time, we must be able to embrace our children, even if they're not biological in the church. If they happen to be pregnant, they must know that, a mistake happened, but the child is not a mistake. We don't know the circumstances of our conception. you understand?
Yeah.
That is, a child it's a gift from God. And sometimes as churches, we go to the extent of calling the child a bastard out of wedlock, to the extent that she cannot even bring the child for dedication. You know what I finally did, Doc? Pregnant teenagers, I pray for them, and with them it's worse. We pray for them even more because complications arrive in that age. There's a lot of complications that they might find themselves in, and also showing them that we accept them, we love them, we forgive them.
And the bottom line, they are mothers.
Mothers,
Once you've got a child, you
you're
are
a mother.
You are a mother.
And you must be recognized as such.
Yeah.
Even on Mother's Day, we celebrate them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And somebody will say, "No, you're promoting it." No, we're not promoting it, but we are accepting that this happened. And when it happened, you don't kill children to try and say, "I'm discouraging it." Because
maybe there's a Solomon.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe there's a David. If my mom and dad forsake me, God will still take me.
Yeah.
Maybe there's is it Jephthah? Is that guy? I think it's Jephthah, I think it's Jephthah, who the brother said, "When you're conceived out of wedlock, get out of here. You're not part of this family."
Yeah, I still remember. Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
And when they were in trouble, this guy was a warrior. When they were in trouble, they called him. "Bruno, could you please come?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm a bastard." They said, No. You're our brother. You will rule over us.
Yeah.
Because there is God is a God of purpose. Even out of what we call mistakes, even what we call out of wedlock, sin, and whatever. Like when you talk of a Solomon, you know how Solomon was conceived. And but you see God doing something that you will say is encouraging. No, God is a God by himself. He does not need our help, and we cannot help him. But we must know that, we must have Timbiluta Squembu, the heart of compassion, the heart of understanding, and not be rigid, And
some of these girls have been rejected. They were seeking love and they couldn't get love. And then we must love them. As the body of Christ, we love them because they've been rejected out there.
Yes.
Why reject them when the society has rejected them?
Already they are rejected.
Yeah.
And how would Christ respond? How would Christ receive them? Look, you remember the woman who was caught in the act of adultery.
Yeah.
Jesus says, did anybody do you any harm? She said, no. He said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. So sometimes we become this God who is merciless. And God does not want or need a deep-seated God. He's God by himself. Wow. And then let's just quickly talk about why should parents buy this book. In fact, this one, to me, this is a book to buy. And I see my sister Dorothy Mukwena, MANGANYI. I will have to put MANGANYI there, saying, good evening, Mashaka, and congratulations to Dr. Mabila. Well done, very true, well done. And thank you, family, and we really appreciate it. And Sister Andy over there, Sister Andy Maringa, thank you. And then Pastor Joelyn, thank you so very much. And then Queen Muhalaka, thank you. And Desmond, thank you, guys. Thank you so very much for being with us. I encourage you to share this broadcast. It's very, very, this is a timeless type of a broadcast, and we will push it as much as we can so that it reaches as many parents as possible. Why should parents buy this book? But I have the reason for myself. Because look, while I have only one teenager now who's growing to adulthood, I've got grandbabies. I've got 2 grandbabies. And I must help, I must train, I must help the parents. This book, they must get it. They must get to understand this while their children are as young as that, so that they are able to navigate. They might even do better, they might even do better. So they will communicate better with their children, and they will correct some of the mistakes that we did on them as parents, out of love, out of ignorance. Why should parents buy this book?
Yeah, for example, if you have got a house and you have got your lawn is overgrown, what you need a mowing machine. And that's what this is a tool.
It's a mower.
It's a mower. I'm saying that you had these problems, but you didn't know how to go about them. Now it's a tool for parents to be in a position to fix their mistake, as well as to fix the relationships that have been damaged, and be better, parents. It's an empowerment tool.
Yes, and that's why parents should get this. Dear parents, take it from me. This is a very important tool. And when I talk of parents, look, I'm a grandparent now, but I'm a parent, and this information I'd never gotten it before. You pick this and that here and there, and you make even mistakes. Sometimes you look at your children and you say, I wish I did this more, I wish I did that right, and things like that, but still have grandchildren. And worse, as a pastor, you continue to be a parent of infants, toddlers, teenagers, and they come to you sometimes. Sometimes I make a joke at church, but this is true. I'll tell them, I'll share something with children, and I will say, if mommy or daddy troubles you, come and tell me. I'll deal with them. But jokingly, and in a way, I help them to open up, and as they open up, I'm able also to help parents say, hey, that one, watch this and this and that, but at least they open up and they come and tell you, yesterday they just said this and this, and but at least they can report. They've got somewhere to report, and you help them to start communicating with parents. Very important. So dear parents, this is a must-get book. That's, like I said on my post, that this is a must-get product, and this is a must-watch show. Share it with, if you love your family, if you love people, if you love your colleagues, let them know about this book. And on that note, Doc, where do we get this book?
You You get it from me. You can order it from me.
Oh yeah.
And
Do you mind giving us your information, Doc?
you can call me
I want.
081.
Okay, just give me some minutes. Let me write it down because I want it on the screen. You know, you get it from Dr. Mabila. Mabila. Mathebula. And you know, a friend of mine, he says Dr. Mabila.
Yeah.
At Planet.
Yeah.
Dr. Mabila. You said
081
081
031
0. Okay, let me give space. 031
36
36
19.
19. Okay, let me put it on the screen.
And the price is 150.
That cheap?
Yeah. Because once you print as many books as possible, for example, I've been approached in Botswana, they want the book as well. Now we want to spread the gospel as widely as possible.
Yes, Doc, and that's very, very much important because, you know, believe you me, it becomes a resource that is so timeless, that's so important. And thank you so very much. Even the price is so affordable. And I must say to my viewers and to my listeners, this is a book to buy and also share with friends. You know, it's a book to buy and give somebody as a gift, to be very honest, and most especially parents, young parents. Let's really empower each other by sharing this valuable information. I really, really appreciate it. Dr. Mabila, I must be honest, my dear friend and my dear brother and my mentor. I must be honest, I enjoyed this. This was very empowering. But what would be the parting shots? You know, what would be the parting shot? I must be honest, this one I'm going to be selling this one.
Yeah, well, the parting shot, you know, at times you don't actually have words, you don't have your own words.
Yes.
But I can borrow language from George W. Bush Sr. When he was inaugurated as the President of the United States. And then he said, I take as a guide the hope of a saint. In crucial things, unity. In important things, diversity. And in all things, generosity. Now, this is the message to families tonight. I thank you.
Doc, thank you so very much. Really, really appreciate it. I must be honest. My dear friends, thank you for being with us. It has been a very fruitful time. And like I said, you get the book from Dr. Mabila, 0810313619. This book is a very important resource for families, and it will really go a long way. And not only for us as parents, but also for our children, you know, and because they are growing to be parents. I would love to say thank you also to our principal, Mr. Maluleke, and our subject advisor, Princess Gagasane. Thank you so very much for coming through. I know you battled getting through, but these are very important. This is a very important resource also for us as educators, because as an educator, you're a parent, you're a father, you're a mother. This will empower you to be able also to quickly diagnose, because these children, we have more time with them at school. Parents, sometimes we see them in the morning, in the evening. It's chores, bathing, and then running to school, coming back home, homework, studying that, and then they go. But as educators, we have ample time with these children, and I can tell you, when you see Dr. Mabila, his relationship with his educators tells you that the impact that you make on a learner it goes for life. So educators, I want to encourage you. I'm one person who's still very proud of my educators. When I meet them, I seek for something to appreciate them. So please, dear educators, I want to encourage you. Let us join hands with our parents and help our children. You know, I love what Principal Maluleke said. Is that those problem learners, I get closer to them, because that's a symptom, or is a sign that there's an underlying factor that is pushing this particular behavior. And when you get closer, you will not just label the child, but you'll be able to help the child. I just want to say thank you so very much to Dr. Mabila and my dear sister, and thank you so very much for coming together. It's good to have you because you are family and we love you. We appreciate you. And I want to say to Pastor Joylene, thank you so very much, my dear wife, and for your support always. You know, we're running, whether there's electricity or not, but she makes sure as our pastor that things are running, and we really appreciate it. God bless you for that. And I want to take this time also to say to my boys, I love you, and I respect you guys, and I believe in you, and I believe that you grow up to become great men. And I want to say to my daughters spiritually also, you know what? We continue feeding ourselves so that we can be able to be of great help to you. And may God bless you, and know that we love you. Even your parents, they love you. Sometimes it's out of ignorance and out of frustration that we talk the way we do. But you know what? With this tool, we believe that our relationship, our communication is going to improve drastically. Thank you so very much, and God bless you. And I wish you a blessed and an awesome evening. Thank you so very much. Friends, you're watching Bold Moves Radio, and on YouTube, on Facebook, and listening to Bold Moves Radio. Thank you so very much. I see Doc lifting up his hand and saying, waving and saying bye-bye. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Streaming 24/7.
24/7. Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana. Oh, Afrika nakupenda sana.